Hello and welcome back, guys. We're now starting a new story, The Shadows That Haunt Us, Wovenofdreams. You can find author's profile link in the description. Let's begin Chapter 1, Prologue. The funeral was small, but it held the greatest amounts of grief the cruel world could ever leave in its wake. Everyone was gathered, dressed in black, around the coffin engraved with flowers and a name, Izuku Midoriya. Half of the people were crying and the other half were trying not to. Izuku stood there, too empty to cry for the first time in his life. He wished he had been there. He wished he could have done something to stop the villain from hurting her, from stealing away her life, from taking her from him. But he wasn't there, and apparently, neither were the heroes. He swallowed thickly. Everyone in the room was stealing glances at him, concern and pity and everything dark glittering in their eyes. He wanted them to stop. He wanted to scream. He wanted to see his mother again. What was even the point of heroes if they couldn't save what mattered most? Izuku wandered the streets in a grief-struck daze. It was as though someone had carved his very heart out of his chest and held it tauntingly in front of him. No one said a word to him at his middle school those days, not even Kaken. Some masochistic part of him that craved the normalcy of the past wanted the other boy to scream at him. To yell at him and shove him to the ground. But even Kaken wouldn't dare disgrace Inko's name, the unspoken mourning PRD after her tragic death, by daring to touch her son. Once he was out of school, it all happened so fast. He was walking home. Alone, quiet, his gaze focused on the ground. He walked under the car tunnel. He held his notebook in his hands, thinking to himself, Mom would want me to be a hero. I have to be the hero that couldn't save her. The one who saves everybody. There was the ominous screech of metal and concrete. The loud bang of something, the sewer lid, falling to the street. Izuku spun around, turning right into the sludge villain's grasp. Slime clung to him like sorrow, wrapping itself around his legs, his arms, his throat. It covered his mouth and his nose as the villain laughed and laughed and laughed. He couldn't breathe, the air. He clawed at the slime, desperate and dying. I can't die here, have no fear. Cried a booming voice. All Might. You are safe now, for I am here. It all faded to black. The next thing Izuku remembered was waking up to All Might gently slapping his face. He blinked up at the hero, his gaze bleary and blurred. Ah, there you are. You're safe now, kid. Izuku nodded, reaching for his notebook. All Might turned to leave. No. He couldn't leave. Izuku had so many questions, he had to make his mother proud. He grabbed All Might's shirt. Wait. The hero turned. Please, just let me ask one question. The hero frowned. All right. But please make it quick. I don't have much time. Izuku stared fixedly at his notebook. Everything he had ever learned about heroes was there, everything he hoped to become. Could I become a hero too? Even without a quirk? 'Cause I don't have a quirk, but I want to be a hero more than anything. Is it possible for someone like me, to become a hero, like you? All Might was silent. Izuku dared to glance up. The silence was thick and heavy, like the foggy air after a storm, only much more unpleasant. Finally, Izuku's idol spoke. No. It was everything awful rolled into one, the screech of a stopping record, the long shadows of midnight in an unfamiliar part of town, the scalding pain of accidentally touching a hot pan, the sight of watching fragile glass shatter into a million, irreparable pieces. What? Izuku breathed, praying to whatever god might listen that he had misheard. I said that you cannot become a hero without a quirk, All Might said, his voice heavy with pity. I'm sorry, kid, but there are many things that you can't do as a hero without a quirk. Maybe try a different career, like joining the police force or something. The hero placed a large hand on Izuku's shoulder. There are many ways to be a hero, kid. Izuku shrugged off the hero's hand. He nodded, his eyes burning with the searing weight of tears he couldn't hold back. I understand. What else was there to be, if not a hero? If not the hero that saved the ones that couldn't be saved? Izuku's mind spun, the world might as well have been turned upside down. He stood there, stared, as All Might, his hero, his idol, his ruination, walked away without a drop of guilt weighing on his shoulders. What was a kid with a dream to a man who had fulfilled his own? It is a well-known and well-displayed fact that predators target the weak. They seek them out, the ones with soft skin and softer hearts who shed tears like flowers shed pollen. They find them, and then they hunt them down. People assume that humans are just that, humans, above every other creature that roams the earth. They forget that humans were once beasts too, and that instincts never die. Days that felt like eternities passed, and the world was looking darker than it ever had before. Izuku's mother was dead, his dreams shattered. The storm in his head was never, ever going to go away, and eventually, the rain would fill up the holes inside his heart until they overflowed, and the water would creep into his lungs until he drowned. But all hope for the future was not lost, for the monsters that stalk in the shadows of humanity saw potential in the boy with a broken heart. They watched him, they waited, and anyone would tell you they were waiting to attack, to strike and aim to kill. But that didn't explain what happened next. Izuku was returning from school, much in the same manner as before. Hands on his backpack straps. Shadows dancing in his mind. His mouth was drawn in a grim line, his green eyes as dark as the tragedies inside them. "Hey, kid," a strange voice rasped. Izuku flinched, spinning around to see two people in an alleyway. There was a man, leaning against the wall, his face shadowed by the hood he wore and sky-blue hair spilling out of it, and, well, it was hard to tell what the other person was. They were much taller than the other one, and appeared to be made of dark, purple-rimmed smoke that danced in the wind. Izuku took a step back. "There's no need to be afraid, Midoriya, we just want to talk." "How do you know my name?" he said, voice trembling with the effort of pulling a brave face. "We're villains. We just know stuff." Izuku frowned, taking another step back. It wasn't hard to tell what that meant. "You stalked me." "Maybe a little bit, but that's not the point." "Shut up and let me talk please." He swallowed and nodded. "Ah." The villain paused. "Could you come over here? Don't want to draw attention." "What?" "I said get in the alley." "No. You just said you're villains, what if you're going to murder me or something?" "We're not going to murder you, idiot. We want you to join us." He blinked. "You, what?" "We want you to join the League of Villains." "You want me, to join the League of Villains?" The man nodded. "What don't you get? I spent my whole life aspiring to be a hero, and you want me to be a villain. Well, we can go then. Come on, Kurojiri." "Wait," said the smoky one. "You're being too harsh with him. He's been through a lot." "Oh, come on. We've all been through a lot." Kurojiri ignored him, looking straight at Izuku. "You've had a rough life, haven't you? You never really had your dad around. Your best friend turned to bullying you. Your mother died. You've always been told that you couldn't do it because you're not good enough. They tell you you're not good enough because you don't have a quirk." Izuku's mouth tasted like ash. As creepy as this was, the villain was right. "We're here to tell you the opposite. You're worth more than the absence of a quirk. Someone's quirk shouldn't define who they are and who they get to be. But the truth is, kid, they're never going to let you be a hero because to them, there are heroic quirks and villainous quirks and they don't care about those who have neither." "What are you saying?" "I'm saying that you don't need a quirk to be great. You don't need a quirk to be remembered. All you have to do is join us, and we can set you free. You can be whatever you want to be without the weight of their expectations and rules chaining you down." Kurojiri paused. "You don't have to make a decision right now. I know it's probably a lot to take in. We'll be here in 2 weeks at the same time waiting for your answer. Darkness. Quiet. It was so lonely, the same old routine. Every day when he passed the alleyway, he peered at the shadows. They weren't there. Did he want to go with them? Did he want to be a villain? He wasn't a hero. He would never be a hero. What would he do with his future? Was he really doomed to become a nobody who helped no one, affected no one? Bitterness seized the shards of his heart. He had already spent 14 years as a nobody. He didn't want to spend the rest of them doing the same. It had grown so tiring, being the quirkless, worthless nothing. The background character, fated to be nothing more than a wisp of memory or a plot device. If not the hero, why not the villain? Why shouldn't he show the world what he could do, what he was really worth? 2 weeks passed, and Izuku heard the words he never thought he'd hear, or even want to: "Welcome to the League of Villains." Chapter 2, Chapter 1. 1 year later, the looming, impenetrable gates of Yu were a formidable foe, Deku supposed, but they didn't stand a chance against the League of Villains. He smiled up at that barrier, standing amidst the horde of reporters scurrying about, desperate for a way in. A way that only he and Shigaraki could give them. "Ready, Shigaraki-san?" he asked. "You'll be quick, right? You can bet on it. I'll be in and out, and no hero or student will be ever the wiser." "Good." The villains pushed through the crowd, Shigaraki taking the lead. The reporters hardly noticed them, far too busy clamoring about to pay attention to the two most dangerous people among them. The villain reached for the wall, all 5 of his fingers brushed against it, and it crumbled into dust. The reporters fell back. A couple of them screamed. It was so quiet the drop of a pin would have been heard by every ear. The press looked back and forth among themselves uneasily. The barrier had just disintegrated before their eyes, after all. Nonetheless, it took less than a minute for them to flood the paths of Yu, desperate for one measly interview. "Pathetic," Shigaraki mumbled. "Go ahead, Deku. I'll be waiting. And make it quick, okay?" Deku grinned. "Will do." He merged with the crowd of reporters, leaving Shigaraki standing alone behind him. The crowd headed straight for the main part of the school, but it only took a few moments of blending in before Deku fell back and snuck off to the teacher's lounge, pace brisk and hood so low he could hardly see. He had traced the path he was taking on the blueprint so many times it was branded into his memory, but walking it was a lot different than looking over a 2D map. One more turn, Deku thought, quickly finding himself face to face with the door to the teacher's lounge. He glanced in every direction. Nobody. He cracked open the door and peered inside. Empty. Perfect. Deku slid inside, closing the door shut behind him. He started rummaging through drawers and stacks of papers. Why did the teachers leave so many papers lying around, until... There it was. The folder containing the schedules for the teachers and classes. He stalked over to it, looking at it for a moment with that sly smile on his face before opening it up and flipping through it. Now, where's All Might? His green eyes flitted back and forth across page after page until, yes. All Might was going to be in the unforeseen simulation joint with only 2 other heroes and a class of hero students. Class 1A. He took out his phone and snapped a photo of the page before returning the folder to its original location and exiting the room. Once outside, he saw 2 teachers, Present Mike and what might have been Eraserhead, trying to shoo the press off of the campus. With another smile, Deku slipped past them and back outside where the barrier had been. Shigaraki scowled. "You took forever. You could have been caught." "Shigaraki-san, I did that in," Deku checked his watch. "Less than 10 minutes. None of your underlings or whatever we're calling them could have done that." Shigaraki ignored him. "Tell Kurojiri we're ready for pickup." He sighed and sent a thumbs-up emoji to Kurojiri. There were a few brief moments of awkward staring between Shigaraki and Deku before, at last, that dark purple mist appeared, swallowing them whole and spitting them back out in the hideout. Kurogiri looked at the two of them with smiling eyes and said, "How did it go, Deku?" He beamed. "Good. I got the photo of All Might's schedule that we needed. Do you want me to send it to you?" "That would be perfect, thank you." Deku smiled and nodded. "Deku." He looked at Shigaraki. The villain removed the hand from his face. Are you sure you want to come with us?" "What do you mean?" "Of course I do. It'll be my first big mission." "Why wouldn't I want to go?" Shigaraki stared at him, red eyes boring into his green. "Can you really fight your childhood best friend?" Deku went quiet. His smile faded. "Kaken is not my friend. He's a hero. And I'm not. We were never supposed to be friends." He grinned again, but this time, it didn't quite reach his eyes. "So, yeah, I'm fine with it. Looking forward to it, actually." Shigaraki and Kurogiri exchanged a glance. Shigaraki shrugged. "Okay." Deku tilted his head. "Well, I think I would like to be able to maintain my civilian identity for a little longer, so I think I might have to drop the suit for this one attack. Do you think that's okay?" "Whatever you want, Deku." Shigaraki rolled his eyes. "It doesn't affect the mission very much whether you wear a suit or a mask." Kurogiri looked at Deku. "Don't listen to him. I believe that's a smart move, keeping your identity a secret. That way, if we ever need someone to do something undercover, you can be that someone for a little longer. However, can you be certain that this Bakugo won't recognize you?" "I'm counting on it, Kurogiri-san." "Pardon. I want Kaken to recognize me." "But why? Wouldn't that ruin the disguise, or at least render it ineffective?" Deku laughed. "He won't tell. He doesn't want them to find out what he said to me." "Ah," said Kurogiri, sounding puzzled. "Well, if you're so certain." "Of course I'm certain. I've only known him for 14 years, after all. I suppose you would know." Shigaraki huffed. "This is boring. I'm leaving now." Kurogiri and Deku both turned their heads towards Shigaraki, the former saying, "We'll see you later, then, Shigaraki. You don't have to narrate your actions, you know." "Shigaraki-san." "Shut up." Kurogiri and Deku both laughed as he left. "Want a drink?" "Sure. Can I have a soda?" "Which kind?" "Coca-Cola, please." "Thank you, Kurogiri-san." "It's my pleasure, Deku." Deku laid on his bed, staring at that bland ceiling, forced to see the bumps and swirls and the weird little crack that just appeared one day. It wasn't a pretty sight, but the warmth swirled in his chest anyways. The attack is soon, he thought with a smile. I wonder what Kaken will think when he sees me. He could almost see the blonde spikes of Kaken's hair, the unhappy line of his mouth. Imagine the look of growing horror as Kaken realized, as he recognized him. This was what he had become. I'm coming for you, Kaken. Chapter 3, Chapter 2, Really? That's what you decided to wear? Shigaraki asked incredulously. You look better in a suit. Hey, don't pick on the outfit. It's not my favorite either, but I've gotta do what I gotta do. Yeah, whatever. What's with the ears? Look, Shigaraki, Kurogiri said gently. Let him be. I think it looks rather nice, Deku. Although I must admit, I am rather curious about the ears. It's drawn from the hero costume I designed for myself as a kid, okay? And they're not ears, he broke off, a distant look in his eyes. Remind me never to wear this again, okay? Did what he said really bother you that much? Kurogiri sounded surprised. No. It's not that. It's just, that ears were inspired by All Might's stupid hair, and I don't really want to wear them. Guys, snapped Shigaraki. We've gotta go. Right, said Deku, pulling down his hood to shadow his eyes and adjusting the black mask with a white teeth design over his mouth and nose. I'm ready. Kurogyri made a motion resembling a nod. As am I. He made a gesture, and the purple fog stretched and separated, forming a portal. Shigaraki gestured to the legions of villains behind them to enter, and they flooded through the warp gate. Finally, Shigaraki, Kurogyri, and Deku followed suit. The students stood at the top of the stairs. 20 kids his age. 2 teachers. Wait, 2. There were supposed to be 3. Shigaraki-san, Deku whispered. All Might's not here. I can see that. Where is he? Shigaraki started scratching at his throat, his face. Deku frowned but said nothing about it. No matter. He'll come eventually. But first, the younger villain brightened. We fight. Shigaraki smiled. Yes. Maybe if we kill some kids, he'll come running to their rescue. One of the teachers, a man who looked close to middle-aged with long black hair and something resembling yellow goggles covering his eyes, threw his scarf forward, plunging feet first into the midst of the villains. As he glanced back and forth, the villains lost their quirks, and he whipped his scarf, and the poor underlings caught within it, around violently. Deku let out a soft gasp. That's Eraserhead. He can temporarily disable quirks for as long as he blinks. That's why he wears those goggles. But, he tilted his head, grinning. What is it, kid? What have you figured out now? Don't you notice it? Notice what? His hair. When his hair falls, they're getting their quirks back. Shigaraki opened his mouth, probably to say Deku was crazy, but then he looked, really looked, and nodded. I guess you're right. You figured that one out really fast. Kurogyri had left them at that point, instead up at the front, transporting the students and scattering them all across the USJ. Deku smiled. Can I go check out the different zones now, Shigaraki-san? Do you want to wait for Kurogyri to move you, or are you going to? Deku pulled out his grappling hook, sparkles in his eyes. Shigaraki sighed. Of course. Shoulda seen that one coming. Bye, Shigaraki-san. Deku took off towards the closest zone to him, the landslide zone, without letting Shigaraki answer. He quickly maneuvered to the highest point of the area, the peak of the full mountain, using a combination of running and grappling. He was grinning by the time he reached the top, peering over the edge into the midst of the engineered landslide. Down below, there was a boy with half-white, half-red hair in a UA training uniform. The boy, he looked familiar, where had Deku seen him before? Reached out with his right hand, and instantly, all of the villains in the zone were encased in ice. Deku stifled a gasp. Now that was power. The boy approached the closest villain and started talking. Deku wished he could hear what he was saying, but it almost looked like he was interrogating the League members. Deku felt a bolt of something like admiration run through his chest. He had taken out at least a dozen villains on his own, with one move, and didn't look the slightest bit fazed. Deku could only imagine what it would be like with that kind of power within the League of Villains. What if it could be? Some part of him thought. He mentally chided himself. He had to see what else these heroes could do. He moved to start running towards the next zone, the ruins zone. His feet pounded against the sidewalk, boom. He almost tripped when he flinched away from the sound, that oh-so-familiar sound, of course. Kaken was in the ruins zone, probably trying to blow up everything and everyone while screaming, "Die," at the top of his lungs. Really, it was a wonder he hadn't shredded his vocal cords already. Deku continued forward, a smirk on his face. Are you ready, Kaken? He reached the outside edge of the ruins zone, facing crumbling buildings and massive heaps of rubble. He aimed his grappling hook, fired, and landed smoothly on top of one of the still mostly intact buildings, his gaze cast downward. Deku adjusted his mask and his hood, not surprised to see that Kaken was doing exactly what he had anticipated, impulsively attempting to blow up any villain that came without range with no regard for whatever the red-haired boy beside him was trying to say. Deku put a hand over his mouth and let out a muffled laugh. Upon further observation, it turned out that the boy beside Kaken was quite the match for going unharmed. Whenever Kaken threw an explosion around, the boy simply hardened and escaped without so much as a scratch. That was a lot better than the villains, who were strewn about with limp bodies. Kaken always has been powerful, Deku considered. But let's see if I can get him to crack. Deku slid down from the top of the building down to the clearing where Kaken and the other students stood, undefeated in glorious victory, surrounded by the unconscious bodies of the villains. He rose to his feet a few feet away from the two students. Kaken looked up, his hand glowing with the potential for yet another explosion, but then, "Hello, Kaken," Deku said pleasantly, tilting his head ever so slightly so that only Kaken could see the glint of his wicked green eyes. Kaken's eyes went wide, the explosion fading from his palm, his arm falling limply to his side. The red-haired boy rushed to Kaken's side, the effects of his quirk disappearing from his skin. Bakugo, Deku raised his grappling gun and aimed it at the boy's face. "You look like you need a nap," he said with a grin, pulling the trigger. The grappling hook collided messily with the boy's face, and he slumped to the ground, just as unconscious as any of the villains around them. "Kirishima!" Kaken exclaimed. "What did you do?" "Relax, are you blind? It's just a grappling hook, he'll be out for maybe an hour. If I really wanted to hurt him, he'd be dead." Kaken took a step back. "Where are my manners?" Deku took a step forward. "It's been a long time, hasn't it, Kaken?" "It can't be you," Kaken said, the horror in his eyes growing with every second that crawled by. You're missing." "Missing isn't dead, Kaken. Were you sad when I disappeared? Did you cry?" Deku laughed. "I bet it didn't even take the whole year for you to get over me." "Izuku, don't." Kaken flinched at the tone of his voice. "Don't Izuku me. I've always been Deku to you. Deku this, Deku that, but when I'm finally owning it, it's Izuku." Deku blinked, realizing how he sounded. "I'm Deku, now." Kaken's hands began to glow again. "Who are you?" "I just said it, like, 10 times. It's Deku." "No," Kaken said. "The Deku I knew never spoke like that." "Like what?" "Like a villain." "Yeah. Like a villain. Deku was supposed to be a hero." "Ah, but heroes need quirks." Deku pet his gun. "Villains don't." I don't believe this. You can't be a villain. You spent your whole life trying to be a hero, and then, what? You just gave up and became a villain." "I didn't want to give up, Kaken." Deku shouted. He took a deep breath and closed his eyes. He opened them again and said, "It was you who said Izuku couldn't be a hero. It was you, and it was All Might, and it was the whole DMN world. And then his mom died, and his hope died with her. So yeah, I guess you could say he gave up, if that's what helps you and that godforsaken hero sleep at night." "Godforsaken, All Might. Deku, what happened to you?" "It's more of a what didn't. Besides, that's not important. The villains saved me. The heroes didn't." Deku aimed his gun at Kaken and smiled. "And they're not going to save you, either." He had meant to aim to kill, he had wanted to aim to kill, but some mysterious, moronic force acted upon him, and he found himself firing instead at Kaken's leg. Deku almost winced at the hero-in-training's cry of pain, but instead he took out his grappling hook and aimed for the top of a pile of rubble. "Goodbye, Kaken." "Deku, wait," the blonde boy took a hand off of his wound and reached for Deku, but it was too late, the villain had already disappeared. "Damn it, Izuku." It felt as if the puzzle pieces he was made of had been hopelessly rearranged yet again, but Deku rested on top of the highest unstable building in the zone as if he were perfectly at ease. Down below, the Nomu had begun wreaking its signature havoc. Deku smiled. Eraserhead didn't stand a chance. Of course, that was the moment that the oh-so-praised All Might decided to throw open the doors, there at last to save his poor students. Deku nearly rolled his eyes at the "fear not, I am here" SHT that he used to love, to adore, to fawn over and repeat to himself like a mantra that might chase the dark edges of reality away. It meant nothing. They were just words. They meant nothing to him, nothing to All Might, and they meant nothing at all. Deku was torn from his thoughts by All Might lunging for the Nomu with his mighty fist and a shout. Carolina Smash. Chapter 4, Chapter 3. If the Nomu were any regular creature, it would have been entirely apprehended by that smash. But there it was, the villains noticed proudly, standing there tall and unharmed and ravenous. Deku yearned to stay and watch, to record the fight, to note down the weaknesses to be improved on, but in the corner of his eye, Shigaraki gestured to him. He frowned slightly. Was All Might really that big of a problem? He was hardly doing anything to the Nomu at all. With a shrug, Deku slid back down the building and ran towards Shigaraki, ignoring the students on the edges of their zones all scrambling back in fear or stumbling forward, looking for a fight. If Shigaraki said time to go, it was time to go. Kurogiri had already opened a warp gate back in the central plaza, and whatever villains could still stand were staggering through the large swirl of dark fog. Shigaraki just stood there, his hands scratching endlessly at his neck and face as All Might continued to throw punches at his beloved Nomu. He's waiting for me, thought Deku with a warm rush of gratitude. Deku finally reached the center of the USJ, his lungs burning with the effort. Let's go. Shigaraki shrugged. I was waiting for you, idiot. The two of them stepped through, side by side, the portal closing behind them. The League of Villains, what was left of it, anyway, stood separated into little groups, wounded and gasping and utterly defeated. Deku looked around at the dejected faces, saw a hint of his scowl behind that awful hand obscuring Shigaraki's face. Shigaraki didn't face any of the villains, even when they addressed him. Even when he noticed Deku staring. He just scowled and threw down his arm in exasperation before storming out of the room. Deku and Kurogiri locked eyes, concern mirrored in both of their expressions. Is he okay? Deku asked. Probably not, said Kurogiri with a sigh. I can talk to him later. Same here, but he'd probably rather hear it from you. Kurogiri nodded. All right then. I'll give him some time to cool off. Good idea. Silence fell for a few moments. That went awful, didn't it? Kurogiri stirred a drink, not looking up. Maybe a little bit, responded Deku with as much cheer as he could muster. But I think I learned some useful information, maybe, a little bit, he groaned, throwing himself on the bar counter. Yeah, I guess it did go badly. But he sat up excitedly again, the bright smile returning to his face. Saw someone that I think would be a good recruit. A recruit. From the Hero Academy. Sure, why not? Did you see that boy with the red and white hair? The one with the ice. He's crazy powerful, he took out a ton of our guys with one move, without any visible or otherwise strong repercussions against himself. And he looked smart too, I think he was trying to interrogate them. Man, can you imagine having that kind of power in the league? Can you imagine? We'd be unstoppable. I would try not to get my hopes up, Kurogiri said with a laugh. But if you really think you could convince him, I'm sure we can arrange something. Do you think you can figure out who he is? Sure thing. Just give me a few days. Kurogiri nodded. It was quiet again, until, how did it go with, Bakugo? Deku's enthusiastic smile faded a bit. I mean, he kinda just yelled at me. You know, the expected. Why are you doing this, what happened to you, yada yada yada. Are you feeling okay about it? Yeah, of course. It was kinda funny actually. You should have seen his face when I knocked out his buddy. Deku smiled instead of paying attention to the twisting feeling in his gut. It had not been funny. He couldn't recall Kaken ever looking so concerned about him like that. What are you, jealous? Deku scolded himself. He's a hero, idiot. Well, if you're feeling alright, then. I am. Thanks for asking, Kurojiri-san. Sure thing, kid. Deku surveyed the room. To be honest, I'm a little surprised so many of them made it. Do you think they'll still be loyal to us? It's hard to say. Perhaps not, considering, but then again, where else are they going to go? That's what I was thinking. Should we say something to cheer them up? Kurojiri stared at him. It could be good for morale, but perhaps you should run it by Shigaraki first. I don't know if it's worth it, he laughed. Probably not. Hey. We kinda lost a lot of people, you know. Yes, we did, Kurojiri sounded confused. And if we want to actually land a blow against them, we're going to need more people, not less. I think I can see what you're getting at here. We need to recruit some more people. But, maybe we should make it a bit more exclusive this time. How so? We need people with certain skill sets and abilities. And, no offense to the villains we lost, but we need people with a bit more competence. They did their job, Kurojiri said with a hint of protest. But I see your point. We'll have to talk to Shigaraki about it, I'm sure he'll agree. Deku put on his brightest smile and said, do you think he'll let me help? I know a lot about quirks and stuff, I'm sure I could make myself useful. I'll try to convince him, Kurojiri said with a smiling voice. I think you'd be a big help. Thanks, Kurojiri-san. Anytime. I should go talk to him now, I'll be back in a few minutes. Okay. Good luck. Thanks. Kurojiri mumbled, I'll need it. By the next morning, most of the remaining villains had slowly left the hideout, until only a handful were left. It was a little painful to watch, if Deku were being honest, but he had to trust that it would be better in the long run. The League of Villains couldn't afford to have half-loyal deadweight lying around whining about their tragic backstories and their villainous hopes for the future. No, the League needed survivors. Fighters who could claw their way out of hell and carry those Dmed flames around long enough to burn the world with them. People with teeth that bite and locks on their hearts and a never-ending blaze within the depths of their eyes. But Shigaraki wouldn't let Deku help him find those people. Deku exhaled slowly to calm himself. It was fine. He was fine. Shigaraki had his reasons, so he was just going to focus on finding out who that ice boy was. Deku was certain that he'd seen him before somewhere, it shouldn't be this hard to recognize someone with such a distinct appearance. It wasn't like half-red, half-white hair and a burn on one's face were common, wait. A burn on his face. Ice powers. Deku quickly opened a new tab on his laptop and typed in, Todoroki family. Instantly, a photo of the number 2 hero Endeavor showed up, with his wife, a gentle-looking, white-haired woman, and a handful of children all around or older than Deku. 2 that looked like Rei Todoroki, 1 a girl, 1 a boy. And 1 that was half of both Rei and Endeavor. Deku smiled. Found you, Shoto Todoroki. He slammed his computer shut and ran out of his room to the bar counter where Kurojiri was polishing some glasses. Kurojiri-san, he exclaimed. I found him. Found, who? The boy I was telling you about. The one with the ice. Oh, yes. I remember now. You found him. Yeah. You know Endeavor. Kurojiri looked puzzled. Yes, of course, well, he's Endeavor's youngest son, Shoto Todoroki. You want to recruit the number 2 hero's son. Deku nodded with more than enough enthusiasm. Okay. You'll need to convince Shigaraki, though, and come up with a plan. I will. Can you imagine if we got the number 2 hero's son on our side? And with his power. He looks like we could be friends, too. If he weren't a hero student, of course. Well, I wish you luck in recruiting him. If I can be of any help, I will gladly assist. Thank you, Kurogiri-san. I'll let you know if anything comes up. Do you know where Shigaraki-san is? I believe he's in his room, bye. Deku took off down the hall and up the stairs over to Shigaraki's room. He knocked 3 times on the door and said loudly, "It's Deku. What do you want now?" "There's something I wanted to talk to you about." Fine, come in." Deku flung open the door and flopped down onto Shigaraki's bed. What are you doing?" "So you know the USJ stuff?" "Yeah, I planned it. I was there." "What's your point?" "Well, when I went to observe the hero students, no. Let me finish. No, we're not recruiting a hero student." "Oh come on," whined Deku. "I'm not done." "Fine. Continue." "Anyways, when I went to observe the hero students, there was this one boy with red and white hair who used really powerful cryokinesis, and I mean powerful. He took out at least a dozen of our guys with one move. And I did some research, and it looks like he's the number 2 hero's son, Shoto Todoroki." "Oh my god. You want not only to recruit a hero student, but the number 2 hero's son. What has gotten into you? Was he cute or something? Is that what this is, a crush?" "What? No. He's not my type. I mean, I guess he wasn't bad looking, but, never mind. I'm getting off topic. Look, I don't even have a plan for recruiting him yet, but if we could just watch the sports festival, I'm sure you could see where I'm coming from." "Fine. I'll consider it." "Really, Shigaraki-san?" "Yes. Why are you making that face at me? You're the best. No sking up. Sking up is not allowed in this household." "Okay, Dad. Don't call me that. I'm not that much older than you." "Sure." Deku laughed as he left the room. "Bye, Shigaraki-san. Thanks for considering." Shigaraki scoffed. "Whatever." Deku couldn't stop smiling on the quick walk down the hall to his room. If I can convince Todoroki, he thought to himself. Why stop there? What if heroes could be replaced with villains? Chapter 5, Chapter 4, It's starting, exclaimed Deku. "Come on, what are you sitting around for? It's starting." Shigaraki groaned. "Why are you so excited about wannabe heroes showing off their flashy powers in some weird tournament thing? It's literally so boring, I don't think so. Think of it as, gauging our enemy's power. Or possibly even recruit, don't even think about finishing that sentence. Why would a bunch of baby heroes suddenly join the League of Villains just because you asked them to? We're not recruiting you, students, for God's sake." "Fine, you don't have to be so mean about it, Shigaraki-san." Shigaraki glanced at Deku with an exasperated sigh. "Why do I even put up with you?" "That's what family does," Deku chirped. What? What? Deku echoed, snatching the remote off of the counter and turning on the TV, quickly flipping to the channel live streaming the Sports Festival. "Do I really have to pay attention? Will you at least pay attention to when Todoroki fights? Please." Shigaraki sighed. "You're a moron, Shigaraki, it's not that hard to oblige him," Kurogiri chimed. "He's not asking for much. Right now, but he wants to. I know, Shigaraki, but if he could make it work." Shigaraki fell silent, considering. Deku could practically see the gears turning in his brain as he tried to imagine a future where they really were able to turn Shoto Todoroki to their side. "Fine," he said, annoyed. "But no guarantees." "Shoo," Deku said, eyes sparkling. "It's starting." The three villains all turned their attention to the screen, Shigaraki with an accompanying eye roll. Deku practically trembled with excitement. Well, until midnight, the R-rated hero finished her little explanation, and the first-year representative was to come up onto the stage. And now, Katsuki Bakugo. Deku blinked. Once. Twice. Did she just say, yes? Shigaraki said darkly. Kurogyri looked at Deku. Are you okay? Perfectly. Just surprised he's up and running so quickly. They have recovery girl, of course he recovered quickly. Fair point. Deku swallowed. Thickly as Kaken began his speech. From the TV, the spiky-haired boy said, I just wanna say, I'm gonna win. Deku face-palmed. Oh my god, he really hasn't changed. It almost seemed like it for a minute there back in the USJ, but I'm so glad I didn't take any chances. Yeesh. Shigaraki only looked more annoyed now. Do we really have to sit through this? Even from their spot on the couch, far away from Katsuki Bakugo and the rest of you, it was crystal clear that the other students, and even audience, was displeased with his speech. They all shouted and yelled, their voices mingling together into an awful sound that would have been immensely overwhelming in person. Deku started to laugh, getting strange looks from both Kurogyri and Shigaraki. I can't believe he's saying all of that with a straight face. He's literally putting the biggest target on his back, but no, he just has to let everybody know that he's going to win and be the best hero ever. What a joke. Deku, are you sure you're okay? What? I'm fine. Let's just keep watching. The lottery imitation on the screen spun and spun before stopping suddenly with the words obstacle course reading loud and clear. The students looked almost nervous. Shigaraki started to roll his eyes again, but kept his mouth shut when Deku shot him a glare. Don't be a brat, Shigaraki-san. We get to see what we're up against, then we won't make any mistakes like we did at the USJ again in the future. I'm not a brat. Why would you call me a brat? I'm literally your boss. Deku raised an eyebrow at him, and Shigaraki scowled, throwing a piece of popcorn at him. You're the brat. Whatever. They turned their attention to the screen again. Deku almost jumped off of the couch. Look. It's him. Do you see him? The one with the red and white hair, so that's Shoto Todoroki. Deku nodded eagerly. And look. He easily got ahead of everyone else with his quirk, actually, Kurogyri said. He got ahead of everyone else using half of his quirk. That only makes it better, Kurogyri-san, Deku said happily. If that's half of his power, imagine what he could do with twice that, the older villain responded. On the screen, large, looming robots appeared out of nowhere, their mechanical gazes locking onto students. Some of the students screamed, causing Deku to giggle. Wow, they're scared of robots. I don't believe it. Who would have thought he'd love making fun of wannabe heroes so much, Shigaraki said dryly, glancing at Kurogyri. It is quite amusing. The villains watched calmly as Todoroki easily took the lead by freezing the robots, and enabling them to topple down in front of the remaining students. While the students now stuck murmured among themselves, trying to find the best way to safely get around the mounds of scrap metal, two boys broke through from underneath the fallen robots. One, with a hardening quirk, was none other than the red-haired boy that Deku had knocked out with his grappling hook, and the other was a boy with a slightly shinier, but otherwise perfect imitation of the former's quirk. Who names their kid Tetsu 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 Tetsu, exclaimed Deku. That's just mean. Shigaraki sighed. You literally named yourself Deku. Come on, Shigaraki-san, you know I didn't come up with that on my own. It is a little bit cruel, Kurogyri commented. You always take his side, Kurogyri. Deku shushed them. Look. They all fell silent to watch as the students all found ways to cross giant chasms with rope strung across pillars. Todoroki was already skating across the ropes with his ice, but the camera panned to a pink-haired girl from the support course gleefully using her gadgets to practically swing across the canyons. Shigaraki tilted his head. Kinda reminds me of what I do. Deku asked. Yeah, me too. It's smart. I wonder if she's quirkless. Doubt it, said Shigaraki. Wow, that's a bit harsh, you know what they're like, Deku. Deku exhaled. Yeah. You're right. The screen quickly snagged his attention again as Todoroki moved on to the last obstacle. Present Mick's voice came out of the speaker as he yelled about the minefield the competing students would have to cross. Todoroki continued moving, expressionless, hopping in between the obviously buried mines. As he neared the halfway point, Kaken came up right behind him, soaring over the mines with his explosions. It wasn't long before the other students began filling up the spaces between mines, carefully making their ways forward. However, it was blatantly obvious that none of them were going to make it anywhere the two boys in the lead. At this point, Kaken had landed roughly, and the two talented students had begun fighting while simultaneously battling gravity to stay balanced and unharmed from the mines. Deku rolled his eyes at Kaken's antics. Are we surprised? Muttered Shigaraki. Not in the slightest, Kurogiri replied. They were evenly matched on the minefield. Kaken was surprisingly not screaming at Todoroki, he seemed to only be trying to push in the lead, not screaming or anything at the half-and-half boy, only pushing and throwing explosions his way. They continued like that for the entire remainder of the obstacle course. There, as they shoved each other, the exit was right there. Todoroki formed an icy spear in his right hand and threw it into the mine directly under Kaken's feet, throwing the blonde boy backwards. Todoroki slid forward on his ice straight into the arena, a red-faced Kaken on his heels. Shoto Todoroki took first place. Deku looked over at Shigaraki with a smug grin. Told you. I didn't. It was Kurogiri's turn to shush them. Please don't argue. Things are getting interesting. The remainder of the students flooded the arena soon after, and the crowds were deafeningly loud, even through the screen. Midnight stood on the stage again, grinning widely down at the crowds of teenagers. Welcome back. Are you ready for the next event? The students cheered loudly. She winked at them. Let's see what it is, She pointed her hand fan at the screen within the U stadium, watching the letters spin yet again. This time, it read, Cavalry Battle. A cavalry battle. Deku raised his eyebrows. Do you always comment on everything? Complained Shigaraki. Deku looked at him and said in the most dead serious voice, yes. As they focused their attention, Shigaraki doing so reluctantly, back on the screen, they found that Midnight had finished explaining the rules. Shigaraki grumbled about not being able to understand what was going on, and Deku and Kurogiri exchanged an amused glance. Unsurprisingly, most of the students in the U arena gave Todoroki a wide berth due to the 10 million points putting a target on his back. However, the three people he decided to approach didn't back away: Momo Yaoyorozu, Denki Kaminari, and Tenya Ida. They seem like smart choices, from what I've gathered about them, said Kurogiri. Deku nodded. Their quirks have potential to work well together. I wonder how this will turn out. Do you think they'll keep the 10 million points? They're really powerful, so yeah, I think they will. Or I hope so at least. Shut up, grumbled Shigaraki. I'm trying to pay attention. Right, sorry, Deku said, him and Kurogiri falling silent. Midnight waved her fan and the battle began. They only have to make it for 15 minutes, Deku thought. Then Shigaraki-san will see what I'm saying. Those were the longest. 15 minutes of Deku's life. Todoroki nearly lost his headband more than a few times, but every time he narrowly dodged, or countered with his ice or Kaminari's electricity. Yaoyorozu created defenses and Ida helped them evade enemies and obstacles. However, the Todoroki team couldn't be the main focus the entire time, so of course other teams were shown displaying their talent, one of which being none other than the one team Deku would have preferred to ignore, the Bakugo team. When they first showed up on the screen, Deku groaned and whined about how he'd rather be watching any other team, but he quickly changed his mind, sitting straight up on the couch. Do you see the pink girl? What's her name, Bushido? Deku, Shigaraki said warningly. Whatever you're about to say, we should know. I'm already hearing you out on one hero student, I'm not hearing you out on, what about that lightning guy? No. Ugh, fine. You're no fun. It's not my fault I don't have AF death wish. Whatever. Shigaraki opened his mouth to continue arguing, but Kurogiri gently placed a hand on his shoulder. Not now, Shigaraki. Let's just finish watching this. Even if we don't ever manage to recruit any hero students, no, don't argue with me, we're at least going to give him a chance, we can still gather good intel from this, yes. With some grumbling, Shigaraki nodded, and the now satisfied villains yet again looked back to the TV. At this point in time, Kaken and his cavalry team were making on a move on some other group when a team that no one had quite paid any attention to before came up right behind him and, Deku blinked. Kaken's headband had just been completely snatched by some students from Class 1B, did that just? Yes, Deku, Shigaraki said with a wide grin. Bakugo just lost his headband. Deku started grinning back. No way, you saw it. They started laughing. Man, those Class 1B kids are going to die. Sure enough, Kaken had his whole team turn around from their target to go after Team Monoma. The 15 minutes slowly drained to zero, with Deku and millions of others watching on the edge of their seats watching. Kaken had managed to reclaim his points and more, but his many attempts at stealing Todoroki's failed every time. In fact, no one ever managed to grab the 10 million points from Todoroki. Deku noticed there was one point where he almost seemed like he might use his fire, but no, he didn't, relying solely on his ice. In third place was Team Shinso, this caught Deku's attention especially, but he didn't dare say anything to Shigaraki about it. But, of course, he couldn't keep himself from entertaining the thought of recruiting the third-place winner of the cavalry battle. In fourth place was Team Tetsutetsu, they did well, Deku supposed, but he couldn't say he was particularly interested in any members of their team. Midnight gave the students a quick break to prepare themselves for the final event. Deku knew it had to be some sort of battle or tournament, but he still found himself wondering what it could possibly be this time. He'd seen it so many times growing up, of course, so he had a few ideas, but, Deku. Yeah, Shigaraki-san. Pay attention, she's about to tell us what the next event is. You're the one that's forcing us to watch it, so you better focus. Right. Sorry, Shigaraki-san. Yeah, whatever, kid. The villains chose to ignore when Midnight let out some flirtatious or otherwise suggestive comment, Shigaraki grumbling with impatience, when at last, the words spun on the screen, Battle Tournament. Midnight quickly explained the rules, there would be some sort of bracket, and they'd fight each other in bare arenas until there was one winner left. It was a fairly simple competition, but Deku couldn't deny that he was looking forward to seeing how it would play out. Before they could start, however, two students came up. It was hard to identify them through the screen, but they were quickly pointed out as Masahiro Ojiro and Narenjiki Shota from Class 1A and 1B. Miss Midnight, Ojiro said. I'm afraid that I cannot compete in the final event. It was so silent that Deku probably could have dropped a pin and heard it, maybe even in you, itself. Ojiro and Shota went on to explain that they wouldn't be participating due to Shinso's quirk, they had no memory of the battle, and therefore hadn't truly proven themselves, which meant they should withdraw from the competition. Yikes, Deku said. So righteous. It's gross. Always babbling about conscience. It gives me the ick. Tell me about it, Shigaraki scoffed. Midnight stared at the boys for a moment. This sort of talk is incredibly naive, my boys. That turns me on. Deku, who had been taking a drink of water, choked. In between coughs, he rasped, "What? The hell?" exclaimed Shigaraki. Did she just say it turns her on? I believe so, said a very confused Kurogiri. The two boys were replaced with members from the team ranked 5th, Kyoka Jiro and Rikido Sato from Team Hagakure. I wonder, Deku began mumbling, getting an annoyed side glance from Shigaraki and a bemused look from Kurogiri. After a few seconds, he said, "Aha. What now?" "Oh, I was just calculating how many battles there will be." "It looks like a lot," Shigaraki complained. "It's only 15. "That is a lot, Deku." "Is it?" "Yes." "Oh. Well, we don't have to watch all of them. We can watch the ones that are going to be interesting, if you'd like." "Based off of the, please, spare me the details, which ones do you want to watch?" "Well, a few students have caught my eye," I said, "spare me the details." "Right, sorry. For the beginning matches, I'm interested in watching the ones with Shinso, Todoroki, Kaminari, Ashido, and Uraraka." "Really? Isn't Bakugo going up against Uraraka?" "You want to watch that brat?" Deku shrugged. "It'll be interesting to see him in action." Shigaraki eyed him suspiciously. "Yeah, whatever." Luckily for them, the first battle was between Shinso and Sato. All it took was a few words from Shinso for Sato to respond, only for the 1A student to go completely still. Shinso smiled. "Now walk out of the arena." Sato mindlessly turned around and walked straight out of the battle area, unaware of how everyone stared in bewildered silence. "Out of bounds," declared Midnight, lacking her usual enthusiastic gusto. Present Mike screamed. In an unexpected turn of events, Rikido Sato walks out of bounds at Hitoshi Shinso's command. What an incredible quirk. "That was quite the underwhelming match, though, DMN, said Shigaraki. "He's powerful." "Yeah, don't even start, Deku." He slumped. "Fine." Next was Todoroki against some kid named Hantasiro. Deku laughed slightly. "I wasn't really paying attention to Siro, but I don't think he's beating Todoroki." "You're absolutely right," Kurogiri agreed. "Todoroki is, a lot more powerful than Siro." Sure enough, Siro went to shoot tape at Todoroki, but all it took was one move for Todoroki to encase Siro and half the stadium in giant spikes of ice. "Holy sh," Shigaraki started before Kurogiri gently tapped him in scolding. "Language, Shigaraki." "I don't mind, Kurogiri-san," Deku said. "But he's right, that was really impressive. It looks like it's going to take a while to defrost that. Want me to go make popcorn?" "Go ahead." Deku grinned, hopping off of the couch. "I'll be right back." "Make sure you put on extra butter," called Shigaraki. A few minutes later, they were all sitting back on the couch, this time with a huge bowl of popcorn, as the next battle came on, Ibara Shiozaki against Denki Kaminari. Deku perked up, ignoring the annoyed side-eye he got from Shigaraki. His excitement was short-lived, however, for Kaminari quickly reduced himself to a moron after putting a ton of volts against the girl, who defended herself with a wall of ivy. Deku winced. "Yikes. You were saying..." "I wasn't saying anything, Shigaraki-san." "I know," Kurogiri sighed, and they both fell silent as the next battle came on. "Do we want to watch this one?" asked Deku. "It doesn't have any of the people you were talking about, so yeah, no." "I'm not interested in Tenya Ida or Mei Hatsum, whoever those are," said Shigaraki. "But I've got nothing better to do, so I guess I'll stay." That battle was immensely amusing. Hatsum had tricked Ida into serving as a model for advertising her gadgets, which were quite impressive, but it gave the villains quite a laugh. "Oh, good," said Deku. "An interesting one. What, do you like the Ashido girl or something?" "Huh. No, she's I'm just interested in her quirk. That's all." Shigaraki sat straight up and looked at Deku with the most interest he'd ever seen from the villain. "She's a what?" "Nothing. Just, forget it. Do you not like heteromorphs?" "That's discriminative, you know, no. She's a girl." "Oh, you mean how you're gay?" Deku's heart dropped, his stomach lurching uncomfortably. He felt sick. Shigaraki flopped back on the couch. "I thought it was gonna be something we didn't know." It was obvious that's what he was referencing, Shigaraki. To you. Hold on, you knew. His mouth tasted dry. Why did his mouth taste so dry? And was the room spinning? Well, yeah, no straight boy is that obsessed with their childhood best friend. I mean, come on. Deku was quiet. They knew. Something welled up inside of him, grief. Gratitude. Love. He couldn't tell anymore. Oh my God, groaned Shigaraki. Are you crying? And no. Kurojairi, give the child a hug please. Kurojairi obliged, much to Deku's relief. It was safe in Kurojairi's arms. We're sorry for interrupting your fun. We know you like watching the heroes, still. We support you no matter who you love. Well, no matter what gender. I don't support the angry Pomeranian nonsense though. Ignore him, Deku, Kurojairi sighed. Deku leaned into Kurojairi. Thank you guys. But, we're missing the battle, Ashido won, Shigaraki said. Oh. Was it cool? Sure. Kurojairi returned to his original seat as Deku asked, who's next? Momo Yaoyorozu vs Fumikage Tokoyami. Oh, cool. Do you mind if I go get some water? Maybe wash my face or something, do what you want. I'll tell you who wins. Deku grinned. Thank you, Shigaraki-san. He scampered out of the room, down the hall, and turned left into the little bathroom. He stared intensely at his reflection in the mirror, something stormy in his eyes. There were streaks where tears had slid down his cheeks. Why had he cried? He hadn't cried in so long. Deku huffed at himself, splashing cold water from the faucet onto his face. It didn't matter. It didn't matter. All that mattered was that they accepted him, supported him. He smiled at himself. It was going to be okay. A few minutes later, after drying his face, fully recollecting himself, and getting a cold glass of water, Deku rejoined his friends on the couch in front of their worn-out, probably stolen TV. What did I miss? Well, the bird boy beat the creating girl. It was kinda cool, I guess, but nothing like the ice boy you're excited about and his weird ice prison. Shigaraki shrugged. Yeah, not sure anything can top that, Deku said with a slight giggle. Shigaraki looked over at Deku. You feeling better now? He nodded. Yeah. Thank you. For what? Accepting me. Shigaraki just looked confused. Okay. Deku was about to respond when the next battle started. Oh. I didn't even notice the battle, no worries, said Kurojairi. It was a draw. They'll have a rematch later. Who was it between? I believe it was Kirishima and Tetsutetsu. Kirishima. Where had he heard that name before? Oh, he thought sourly. It's that red-haired boy that was with Kaken. He shook his head and tried to focus on the new match, this time between Ochiko Uraraka and, it's Kaken's battle already. Shigaraki sighed. Yeah. As much as I hate to admit it, I think he's going to win this one, Kurojairi and Deku nodded their agreement. On the screen, Uraraka didn't hesitate. She ran straight for Kaken, her face painting the perfect picture of determination. Kaken didn't bother to move, instead preparing an explosion in his right hand, going for his classic right hook. Uraraka clearly saw it, trying and failing to dodge his attack. Smoke billowed through the arena, and Kaken lunged for an attack, only to find it was just her jacket. She came flying from behind, attempting to touch him and failing again. She kept coming at him, and Kaken kept throwing his biggest explosions at her, his quirk tearing up the concrete they stood upon. The crowd tittered in nervous anticipation, and one hero yelled something about him being a bully, sending the whole crowd into a spiral of jeers, which Mr. Aizawa was quick to silence. The floor of the ring was all torn up, bits of concrete strewn all over the place. Uraraka used this to her advantage, making them float and attempting to throw them at Kaken as an offensive attack, but, boom. He blasted the floating rock away with one shot, sending Uraraka flying backwards. She landed roughly, and she looked beat up. She forced herself to rise to her feet, about to go at him with another attack when she tipped over and fell over, barely conscious. Kaken stopped, standing there, staring at her, still standing in a defensive position, but there was no point, for she passed out moments later. "DMN," said Shigaraki. "That was intense. She did better than I was expecting." Deku nodded. "She's smart. I bet with training she might be able to get the upper hand on Kaken one day." "Yeah, maybe." They quieted as Present Mic's voice came through their TV speaker, declaring, "And that's it for our first round of matches. We're taking a quick break, and then we'll be back with more matches." "Huh. That's lame," said Shigaraki. "What are we supposed to do while we wait? Play a game?" Shigaraki rolled his eyes. "Like what?" Deku shrugged. "I don't know." "Then why did you suggest it?" Shigaraki exclaimed. "You asked." Shigaraki and Deku argued the entirety of the break while Kurojiri went and made chicken nuggets. When he returned to the couch with his peace offering, everyone gladly fell silent and got along again, munching on their snack until the break was over at last. "By the way, Kurojiri," Deku said. "Kirishima won the rematch." "Did Present Mic just say, you ding?" asked a bewildered Shigaraki. "Yes, Shigaraki-san. He did. Heroes are weird." Deku sat up straight. "It looks like it's time for the next round." "Next up is Hitoshi Shinso against Shoto Todoroki," yelled Present Mic, stretching out more syllables than necessary. "What do you think will happen, Deku?" Kurojiri asked. "Well, I would say they're pretty evenly matched, but I don't know if Todoroki will respond to anything Shinso says after Shinso's last match. If not, then Todoroki has the match in the bag, but if he does respond, I'd say Shinso has a high chance of winning. It all hinges on what Todoroki does." Kurojiri nodded. "I agree." Todoroki and Shinso stared each other down from their sides of the ring, Todoroki with no clear emotion in his expression and Shinso with a hint of nervousness. Shinso opened his mouth and asked something just as midnight declared the match started, and Todoroki hesitated. 3 seconds passed, Deku counted, before he responded, not with words, but with ice. Shinso tried and failed to dodge, quickly encased in a much smaller ice prison than Todoroki had utilized before. Todoroki turned to Midnight, his face still blank as ever. Midnight blinked. "Shoto Todoroki wins." "Huh," Deku said. "That was fast." "Kinda expected that, though." Kurojiri nodded. "They're both quite powerful. Is this thing over yet?" Shigaraki complained. "No, not yet." The next few matches went by with the following winners, Tenya Ida, Fumikichi Tokoyami, and Katsuki Bakugo, until it was time for the semifinals. The first match of the semifinals was between Todoroki and Ida, and, as expected by Deku, Todoroki won. The second match was between Tokoyami and Kaken, and, again, as anticipated, Kaken won. At last, it was time for the final match, Shoto Todoroki, son of Endeavor, against Katsuki Bakugo, the first-year representative. "You know," Deku said. "I actually don't know how this one will play out. I think that if he used his fire, Todoroki would win for sure, but it doesn't look like he will. They're pretty evenly matched. Who do you want to win?" Kurojiri asked. Deku stole a glance at Shigaraki. "Todoroki." "Same," Shigaraki said. "The blasty brat needs to get his butt beat for once." "That's okay," Deku said, an amused smile playing on his face. As soon as the match started, Todoroki immediately blasted insane amounts of ice towards Kaken, more even than he used against Zero, and it looked almost as though Kaken was buried, but the explosions and cracks in the ice proved otherwise. Kaken blasted a tunnel through the ice and propelled himself straight for Todoroki. Kaken aimed a blast at Todoroki, and Todoroki dodged with some midair maneuver, catching himself by sliding across a wall of ice. Kaken lunged again, grabbing Todoroki's left side. Todoroki easily could have used his fire to fight back, but instead flung Kaken to the ground. The blonde boy appeared to be screaming something at Todoroki, some desperate words thrown around the same way he threw explosions. Todoroki reached with his left arm, hesitation written across his face, and Kaken grinned, coming at him with another explosion, but at the last second, before he even lit up his arm with flames, Todoroki dropped his arm, forced to take Kaken's explosion after a futile attempt to defend himself with another wall of ice. The smoke cleared. Shoto Todoroki was unconscious and out of bounds. Kaken's face dropped, his expression going from determined to sad in a fraction of a second. He started screaming again, stumbling over to Todoroki and grabbing the unconscious boy's shirt, yelling at him and shaking him until purple mist surrounded him, and he slumped to the ground. "DMN," said Deku. "He really hasn't changed." A few minutes later, the award ceremony began. In third place was Tokoyami Fumikage, standing with his arms crossed. In second place was Shoto Todoroki, his hands curled into fists, his arms bandaged, and his face shadowed as he stared at the ground. And in first was Katsuki Bakugo, who was literally chained to a concrete block decked out with massive HNDCFFS and a muzzle. Deku choked on his water again, but this time because he was laughing. "Oh my god," he said. "They might as well have arrested him. Is he still struggling?" Kurogyri said with a muffled snicker. "What an idiot." Shigaraki made a sound resembling a cackle. "I'm actually kinda glad I sat through this, just for that. This is the most appealing thing I've ever seen." "I know, right?" Deku wheezed. "I can't." The villains laughed for 5 minutes straight before regaining their composure. Deku was the first to change the subject, saying, "So, Shigaraki-san, thoughts?" Shigaraki instantly sobered up. "Shoulda expected that to be pretty much the first thing you say," he sighed. "Yeah, sure. He's impressive, I'll give you that. If you can come up with a good, safe plan, I'll consider it." "Really?" Deku's whole face lit up like a flashlight. "You mean it?" "Of course I mean it, idiot. Why would I say it to you if I didn't mean it?" Deku shrugged, already hopping off of the couch. "I'll have a plan soon. I won't let you down, Shigaraki-san." As images of the hero student swam in his head, a sharp grin spread across his face. He could convert Todoroki, he was sure of it. But he didn't intend to stop there. Chapter 6, Chapter 5. Deku slammed a paper down on the table. "I got it." Shigaraki looked at him, annoyed. "Got what?" "A plan. For recruiting that Todoroki kid." He nodded eagerly. "Okay, what is it?" "I need to get a job." "What?" "I need to get a job at the Endeavor Agency." "Okay. We can arrange that. Do you need an alias?" "No, I'm just gonna use Izuku Midoriya." "Don't you hate that name?" "Well, I can't exactly use Deku, forget I asked." "If you're cool with it, so am I." "Yeah, sure, we can get you a job at the Endeavor Agency." "What kinda job do you want?" Oh my god. I didn't think that far. What jobs do they even have at hero agencies? You're the hero addict. You should know this, not me. Okay, I was a hero addict, for one, and for two, I guess I never really thought about the jobs they have other than pro at an agency, okay. Ugh, whatever. Just look it up. Shigaraki leaned over Deku's shoulder as the boy pulled out his phone and typed in jobs at hero agency. Ooh, I could be a receptionist, maybe. Yeah. We can make that work. Dunno why you'd want to talk to people all day though. Deku shrugged. It makes it the easiest to do my job, so I don't have a problem with it. Ignoring that, Shigaraki said, Kurogyri and I will tell you when we get you the job, K. Okay. Thank you so much, Shigaraki-san, it really, please save the speech. Right. Sorry. You apologize too much, Shigaraki grumbled as he went to go find Kurojiri. Deku just smiled to himself, flopping down onto the couch and opening Tumblr on his phone, scrolling until Shigaraki re-entered the room. Kurojiri says you have to fill out an application. Oh, okay. On paper or online? Online works. Kurojiri will send you the link. Thanks, Shigaraki-san. Shigaraki waved him off. It's not for you, it's for the destruction of heroes. Right, Deku said with a wide grin. Sure. Was that sarcasm? Deku smiled sweetly. Of course not, Shigaraki-san. You're a brat, Shigaraki said as he left the room. I hope you know that. Deku laughed. Oh, I do. The application was filled out and submitted in no time, and Deku didn't question the methods used to get his response email. To Mr. Midoriya, we have received your application for the receptionist opening at the Endeavor Agency, and we have arranged for your interview. The email went on to provide the date, time, and location of his job interview. He grinned. He might as well have been accepted already. The days waiting for his interview were some of his most boring. The clock ticked by at the speed of a snail trying to pull along a boulder, and he spent most of it idle on his phone or lying face down on the couch ignoring the strange looks he kept getting from Kurojiri and Shigaraki. But, at last, it was time. He was all polished up, dressed up in a black turtleneck with a dark gray cardigan and his usual combat boots. His green curls were slightly more contained than usual thanks to futile attempts at combing it down. We're literally ensuring you get the job, Deku, Shigaraki said. You don't need to do your hair, I have to play the part though, Shigaraki-san. It's no fun if I don't. Gotta make a good first impression, you know. You really don't, but I'm not even gonna try with you anymore. Kurojiri chuckled. Good luck with your interview, Deku. Deku grinned. I don't need it. He stepped through Kurojiri's portal and found himself in an alley near the Endeavor Agency. He brushed off his shirt and strode around the corner and straight through the doors of that looming skyscraper of a hero office. Not bad, he muttered as he looked around. He has some cash to throw around, I see. Are you Izuku Midoriya? Deku flinched, but turned to the stranger, some random person wearing an Endeavor badge, with a smile. Yes, that's me. Follow me. I'll show you to your conference room. Deku followed them with the slightest hint of smugness in his smile and the most confidence anyone but Endeavor had walked those halls with. It earned him some stares from the employees he passed by. Here you are, Mr. Midoriya. Deku smiled at them. Thank you. You're welcome. They returned his smile with a business-born one of their own before turning and leaving. Deku entered the room with his head held high, ready for a job interview. Shigaraki-san, Deku exclaimed. I got the job. Shigaraki just stared at him. No SHT. Deku laughed. I'm surprised you managed to get me in despite my age. Oh, about that, we may have said you were 16 to make it easier to get you in while still being believable. How did you get me in? Shigaraki scratched his throat. The usual. Ah. Deku nodded. Okay then. Can Kurojiri drop me off at the bus stop? Why can't he just drop you off right by the building? Too suspicious. And boring. Shigaraki sighed. Of course it is. Yes, he can drop you off at the bus stop, Deku beamed. Great. Sure enough, a week later Deku was hopping out of the bus in front of the Endeavor Agency and walking through those doors, this time as an employee. He took his seat at the front desk with a smile. A handful of weeks passed by before Todoroki finally passed by the front desk while Deku was working there, the days spent doing actual work, which was incredibly boring to a boy who was accustomed to causing chaos and doing whatever he wanted. But there he was. The boy with the half and half hair and the mismatched eyes. The boy with incredible power at his disposal. Deku spun around in his chair twice for fun and to catch the boy's attention. Oh. Hello there. Do I know you? No. Wait, oh. You were in the sports festival, weren't you? Second place. Todoroki looked at him for a moment. That was me, yes. You did good. Your ice is very powerful, I don't think I've ever seen anything like that. What's your name again? Shoto Todoroki. Deku pretended to freeze in shock. Oh. You're the boss kid. Unfortunately, said Todoroki. He stared at him before cracking a grin and waving it off. Yeah, he does seem a bit how do I put it nicely, intense. Right. I should get going. Okay. See you around. Name's Izuku Midoriya, by the way. Todoroki nodded. Nice meeting you, Midoriya. It was nice meeting you too, Todoroki-kun. Deku beamed. He had been starting to think he'd never meet Todoroki, but finally, now he just had to befriend him. Deku continued to seek Todoroki out over and over again, always starting conversations whenever possible. It seemed almost as though he might be annoying the poor boy, but it was impossible to tell with the emotionless mask he wore. The days were filled with, hey, Todoroki-kun, and, what's up, Todoroki-kun, and his evenings were filled with looking over potential recruits from less heroic paths of life. Deku, Shigaraki said to him one night. I think we're going to team up with that hero killer, Stain or whatever his name is. If we can find him. What do you think? Well, you're the boss, but you should be careful, we're not certain of his motives or intentions, so who knows what he really wants. Shigaraki nodded. Yeah, whatever. The next day, when he came back from work, he found Kurojiri bleeding from a wound on his arm, frozen in place, and Shigaraki pinned to the floor by Stain, the villain's blade in his shoulder. What the hell, Deku started, Kurojiri and Shigaraki's eyes moving to look at him, and Stain turning his head in the boy's direction. Who's this? Rasped the hero killer. All three of them were staring at Deku, Deku's gaze flitting nervously between them. He took a deep breath, plastered on his trademark smile, and said, I'm sorry, have we met? Stain relaxed his grip on Shigaraki a bit, his expression guarded. No. I've never seen you before in my life. That's what I thought. Which is why I'm wondering why you're in my house, attacking my family. They need to learn their lesson. Pardon. They need to learn their lesson. And what lesson would that be? You guys don't have passion. How can you stand to call yourselves villains without drive? Oh, we have passion. I'm going to have to ask you to leave, hero killer. What? Deku smiled. I suggest you leave before Shigaraki-san is obliged to kill you. He's not weak, you know. He can turn you into dust with ease. As for conviction, we have it. Shigaraki-san. We're going to kill All Might, Shigaraki said with wide, maniacal eyes. We're going to kill him and bring the world to their knees. After we've done that, we'll destroy it all. That's right. An admirable goal, don't you think, Stain? A lot more flashy than yours, if I do say so myself, but we could benefit from an alliance, if you don't insist on dying today. Stain stared at Deku for a moment before looking back down at a smiling Shigaraki and the hand hovering above his arm. He stood up, pulling his blade out of the villain's shoulder and sheathing it. Our goals fundamentally oppose each other. I don't want the end of hero society, I want true heroes to arise, not the petty fakes clamoring for cash and fame. However, I can agree that the present system needs to be destroyed. He turned to Shigaraki. This was a test, that is all. I was trying to get you to reveal your true colors, to see what drives you. The dying will say just about anything. I can see now that you are powered by longing, albeit an abnormal one. The hero killer spread his arms. I wonder how it will turn out, perhaps I will help you, see how you turn out. If problems arise, I could always just get rid of you. I'm free, murmured Kurojiri. Get rid of him, Kurojiri, growled Shigaraki. He's too much of a problem. Deku leaned against the doorway. Kurojiri said with a frowning tone of voice, Shigaraki, please reconsider. He could be a great asset if we had him on our side. This could be a success rather than a loss. Return me to Hosu, Stain demanded. There are more false heroes there I must take care of. Very well, said Kurojiri. Please consider our offer. Deku watched as Stain disappeared into a portal. Well. I can't say I expected to come home to that. Sorry you had to see that, Kurojiri said apologetically. He caught us off guard. We anticipated having finished the deal before you arrived. It's not a problem. Did I help? Yes, we thank you. I'm sure you'd have figured something out. Happy to help, though. You okay, Shigaraki-san, Kurojiri-san? Shigaraki was seething. I'm literally bleeding out of a wound in my shoulder, what do you think? Good point. Let's get you patched up. Deku went and got the first aid kit from under the bar counter. He pulled out the bandages and saline, gently pouring the latter onto the wound and ignoring Shigaraki's hiss of pain. He then wrapped the bandages around it, tying them with a pleased hum. There you go. Thank you, Shigaraki said gruffly. Of course. He turned to Kurojiri. Your turn. Kurojiri nodded and held out his arm as Deku went through the same process. Much thanks, Deku. Anytime, Kurojiri-san. He beamed. Anyway, what was that all about? He wasn't happy we brought him here, I suppose. How was your day? Deku shrugged. The usual. I don't know if Todoroki likes me, he said with a giggle. I might be annoying him a bit. Do what you have to, Kurojiri reasoned. I'm sure it'll work out. You're very personable. Ah, thanks, Kurojiri-san. What's for dinner? Shigaraki butted in. I'm hungry. Deku laughed. You literally just got stabbed, and that's what you're worrying about. Look, it's dinner time and I'm hungry. Can we have katsudon? Deku asked, tilting his head and smiling at Kurojiri. Shigaraki groaned. Again. Hey. I saved your butt back there. Kurojiri gave Shigaraki an amused glance. Yes, we can have katsudon. Deku grinned. You're the best, Kurojiri-san. I hate you all, grumbled Shigaraki half-heartedly. We literally had katsudon 2 days ago. He laughed. I'm sorry, Shigaraki-san. Come get me when it's ready. I have things to do. With that, Shigaraki left the room. Can I help cook, Kurojiri-san? I don't like denying you fun, but Deku, I'd rather not have the hideout burned down today. Yeah, you're right, Deku sighed. I wish I could cook. Kurojiri patted his arm. You try your best. Always do. Are you alright, Midoriya? Todoroki asked him the following morning. You look more tired than usual. Ah, yeah, I'm fine. Just had a bit of an interesting evening, you know. Todoroki nodded. I understand. Anyway, how are you today, Todoroki-kun? I'm fine. Okay then, Deku drawled. How's the internship? Also fine. Is it weird having your dad as your boss? Or, teacher or whatever? It's more irritating than weird, but that's only because of my father in particular. Yeah, I bet. He's kinda, I don't know, mean. But not always. He's just very, focused. And serious. But like, in a grumpy way, not in a cool way like you. Todoroki blinked at him. Okay then. I'll see you later, Midoriya. See you. Have a nice day. Deku beamed. I'll try, thanks. Deku sighed after Todoroki was gone. This was a lot harder than he'd anticipated it being. It doesn't matter. I can do this. Chapter 7, Chapter 6. Small talk was tiring, Deku quickly found out, but he could bear it. He was actually starting to enjoy Todoroki's company a little bit, though he didn't dare mention anything about it to Shigaraki or Kurogiri. To be honest, Deku was surprised he found himself considering Todoroki as something of a friend in only 3 days. He was almost certain the other boy wasn't feeling nearly as amiable as he was, but hey, friendship worked in mysterious ways, so who was he to say? Hey, Todoroki-kun, he said with a smile. What's up? The usual. You. Same here. Do you think you'll be doing anything interesting today? I'm not certain. If I do, I look forward to the learning experience. Deku nodded. Makes sense. He paused, desperately scrambling for something to keep the conversation afloat, to catch Todoroki's interest. Man, I wish I could have been a hero. He absolutely, 100% did not wish he could have been a hero, but he could hide the aftertaste of disgust in his mouth to keep that information from Todoroki for the time being. Todoroki seemed almost hesitant to respond. Why couldn't you? Oh, you didn't know. I'm quirkless. Todoroki blinked. Oh. I'm sorry. Nah, don't be. I'm perfectly happy helping out heroes from a distance, like I am now. The poor boy looked as though he hadn't the faintest idea how to deal with this information. Right. Okay. I'm going to go now. Bye, Todoroki-kun. Todoroki nodded. Bye, Midoriya, SHT. I probably shouldn't have said that. What if they know that I'm quirkless? The real me, the villain one. Now that they know Izuku Midoriya is quirkless, DMN. I need to be more careful. Deku shook his head and went back to work. He opened the door to the League of Villains base slowly, cautious this time. He peeked inside. No one was bleeding out anywhere. That's a relief, he thought. Then he ventured further inside, calling out, I'm home. No one answered. Weird. He went and peered into the rooms. No one was home. Is today? Deku pulled out his phone and called Kurogiri, the phone picking up immediately. Deku, asked the villain on the other end of the line. What's up? I just got home, where are you guys? We're on some rooftop in Hosu. Did you forget? Today is the day we're releasing the 3 Nomas in some, in an attempt to bring down Stain. Stain. Isn't he our ally? Kurogiri sighed. Shigaraki doesn't like him. That makes sense, actually. Are you busy? Sorry for bothering you, if you are. No, we're not actually going to join the battle, apparently. We're just watching from afar, that's all. You're not a bother. Oh. Well, that's a relief, I guess. I mean, you guys are still hurt and all. I wouldn't want you to get more hurt. A pause. Shigaraki says thanks for caring. Deku could hear Shigaraki's voice vaguely from the other end, screaming, no, I don't. He laughed. Of course, Shigaraki-san. Stay safe. Oh, and make sure to tell me how it goes. We will, Kurogiri said warmly. Thanks for checking up on us, Deku. Anytime. Bye. Goodbye. He hung up and sighed. He didn't see trying to knock Stain off the board going well, nor did he see causing thoughtless chaos moving them any closer to their goal, but it didn't matter because he wasn't the boss. Shigaraki was. I just hope they don't get themselves hurt, he thought, annoyed, going to the kitchen, opening the fridge, and pulling out a slice of chocolate cake. He sat on top of the counter, eating his cake with a spoon. It was so quiet, silent, but his mind was so loud, whispering anxieties on a loop and dredging up images of Kaken, the traumatized look in his eyes when Deku revealed himself, the anger he explosively displayed in the sports festival, the cruel smirk of a middle school bully. "Damn it, Izuku," he had said when Deku ran away like he'd run away so many times before. "What happened to you?" "Deku, wait," Deku threw his spoon into the sink, the clatter launching his thoughts into a comfortable disarray. He hopped off of the counter, stormed into his room, and threw open the lid of his laptop. He pulled up the hero watching website he had bookmarked and scrolled through the latest updates. Mount Lady had been particularly active that day. Wait. A website moderator just linked a live video. From Hosu. God, I hope they're not in trouble, Deku thought as he clicked on the video. The person with the phone was aiming their camera at the three Nomas as fires burned around them. The heroes desperately tried to take them down and put out the fires, but the Nomas were unscratched. Deku smiled slightly. "They're fine." Suddenly, the camera shook, and it looked as though the person holding the phone had taken several hasty steps back. Their muffled voice exclaimed, "It's Endeavor. We're saved." Endeavor. But that means, a Noma was instantly frozen into place with ice coming from off-screen. Oh, God. Shoto Todoroki and Endeavor suddenly ran into view, one with the hint of frost in his hand and the other burning with an endless flame. Deku kept the video running as he picked up his phone and called Kurogiri. Once again, the warp villain picked up immediately. "Deku. What's wrong? You might want to be ready to get out of there, Endeavor just arrived." "He did." A pause. "Ah. Is he close?" "Yes, but don't worry, Deku, we'll be fine." "Okay. Just be careful." "We will. Thank you for the warning." "Amichim. Bye." "Goodbye, Deku." Kurogiri hung up. Deku breathed out a sigh and brought his attention back to the screen. Endeavor and Todoroki seemed to complement each other, one old, one young, one made of fire and expressions, one icy and expressionless. Of course, Todoroki had his own fire he could use, why doesn't he? Wondered Deku. It would be so much easier to climb the ranks of heroism if he used both his flame and ice. He frowned, squinting at the screen as Todoroki froze the Nomas and Endeavor burned them, the father and son engaging in a careful dance of scalding heat and icy cold. The freckled boy tilted his head at the mini version of the raging Endeavor on his laptop screen. He burned with fire, the same fire Todoroki refused to use, and with what appeared to be anger. Yes, Endeavor was angry, pointless anger, of course, for second place was second only to one, but Deku's supposed heroes didn't abide by logic. Could it be Endeavor who had caused Todoroki to put his fire under lock and key? I could be reading into this too much, but I'll ask him about it. He closed his laptop. The rest of the battle was a loss no matter what happened, either they lost a couple of Nomas, or Deku lost a friend, and he didn't want to watch either. Deku looked out of the window for a moment, staring into the evening dusk. He went and curled up on his bed, still in his day clothes. They'd make it home okay, right? Chapter 8, Chapter 7. Deku woke up to the sound of voices down the hall. He sat straight up, the blanket falling off of his shoulders. He paused. He hadn't put a blanket on before he fell asleep, had he? And the door was cracked open. A little smile played on his face. Shigaraki or Kurogiri must have put it on him when they got back. He slid out of bed and out the hall, creeping over to the kitchen. Kurogiri and Shigaraki stood there, chatting about Stain. He didn't even get arrested or anything, Shigaraki said with a scowl. He was supposed to get arrested. Or killed. Doesn't matter to me. Kurogiri sighed. What, did you expect them to catch him with 3 Nomas to deal with? I mean, yeah. I'm sorry, Shigaraki, but we might want to back off for a little bit. It will probably be a lot more difficult to land any blows against you, right now. Oh, yeah, I forgot, Deku, curious, entered the kitchen fully. Forgot what? Deku. You're very quiet sometimes, he smiled. Sorry, Shigaraki-san. What were we talking about? Well, Kurojiri tilted his head. A hero student died. Deku froze. What? Tenya Ida. Younger brother of Ingenium or whatever. The idiot tried to take on Stain and died. DMN, said Deku. Stain's not holding back. Hey. We aren't either. He laughed. I didn't mean it like that. He just didn't seem the child-killing type. Little concerning, to be honest. I mean, Ida's my age, isn't he? If he so much as tries to touch you, he'll regret it, Shigaraki scoffed. He's not gonna kill you. I mean, I wasn't really worried, but thanks, Shigaraki-san. What happened after I hung up? You didn't see. No, I stopped watching. Oh. Well, Endeavor killed 2 Nomas, and the last one tried to take Todoroki, which turned out to be a fatal mistake. Stain escaped after killing Ida and some hero named Native. We haven't heard from him since, but Shigaraki is insisting on making sure he's out of the way. I don't like him, okay? He's just, Shigaraki gestured vaguely. Weird. I'm sure I can come up with something, if he contacts us again. Keep me updated, K. He paused. Also, did you say he killed a hero and a hero student? Kurojiri nodded. He's really on top of his game. The heroes are probably really shaken right now, which means there's no better time to improve. Improve? How? Shigaraki sounded wary. If you haven't noticed, we're a little short on villains at the moment. It's gonna be a bit of a problem. Nomas can't solve everything, you know. What, have you convinced the stupid hero kid overnight? Nah, I haven't seen him yet. I think it's time we get Jiren's help. Do we have to? We can't find enough villains on our own, especially since you and Kurojiri-san are such high-profile villains. We're gonna need his help. He hesitated. But I think we need to solve the Stain problem first. Now we're talking. What are you thinking? Well, like I said, we need to make sure he's in contact with us first, maybe we can trick him. Like, tell him to meet us somewhere, and then we can get the cops or heroes over there. That could work, oh. I've got it. Of course you do. What's your plan? Hey. Todoroki-kun. Midoriya. You're okay. Yeah, I saw the news last night, that must have been so scary. Good job on taking down that Noma last night, you were really great. Deku grinned at him, but he was careful to make sure it lasted only a moment. Oh, and I'm sorry about your classmate. He died a noble death. Todoroki's expression fell. Yeah. He'll be missed. I'm sure. Hey, do you want to hang out later or something? I bet you need a break from all the hero stuff for a minute, you know. He paused, looking down. Was he actually feeling shy? Only if you're not busy or anything. Todoroki considered him. Sure. It'll be nice to hang out with a friend. Deku beamed. Great. I'll meet you at, he gave Todoroki a time and place. Step 1, complete. After Todoroki left, he pulled out his phone and texted Kurojiri, make sure to mention to Stain that I work at the Endeavor Agency and on my way home from work I'm gonna get a coffee. Maybe throw in needless violence or SMTH. Whatever works. Step 2, complete. Several hours later, Deku walked down the street, a grin on his face. It wasn't very often that he got to play a role in his own schemes. Just as he approached the coffee shop, he heard a voice from an alleyway. Deku, what do you think you're doing? He turned. Sure enough, there stood Stain, hiding in the shadows. What is it with you villains and alleyways? Getting a coffee. What's up, man? I know what you're planning, Deku. Why would you kill people just for fun? Do you think I'm just gonna stand by and let you do that? Okay, who told? It doesn't matter who told, you moronic child. The heroes will stop you, if I don't. If you don't Stain pulled out his sword and grabbed Deku's wrist. The green-haired boy swore and took out his knife just in time to block the sword. God, I hope I timed this right, Midoriya. He dropped his knife. Stain went still, his blade hovering above Deku's throat. Todoroki-kun, he responded in the most terrified voice he could muster. Todoroki's shadow fell on the two villains. Oh my God, Stain. Stain looked at Deku in confusion. You, Todoroki-kun, help, Stain hissed in anger and lowered his blade, but Todoroki knocked him out with a swift wave of ice. Deku scrambled into a sitting position, gasping for air. Are you okay? Todoroki had rushed over to Deku's side, examining him for wounds. What did he want from you? I'm fine. He was asking about your dad. My father. Endeavor. Yeah, Todoroki was silent. He reinforced Stain's icy prison before pulling out his phone. It rang for a few minutes before someone picked up. Endeavor. Yes, well, you might want to send a team of heroes, maybe some police over to my location. Well, Stain is, yes, I'm fine. Stain has been captured. Yes, I caught him, no, I'm not hurt, just send a team, please. Before he wakes up. Please. Todoroki hung up with a sigh. You okay? Am I okay? You literally almost died, not the first time, what? Nothing. I noticed you called your dad, Endeavor, what about it? Well, usually sons call their fathers, dad. Todoroki said nothing, his gaze dropping. Not that I would know, Deku said with an awkward laugh. Haven't seen my dad in 10 years. But that's not the point. I was watching a video of part of last night's battle, and I couldn't help but notice that you don't use your fire. And then you don't call him dad or father or anything, so I thought maybe, but I'd hate to assume, God, I'm a mess. Forget I said anything. Todoroki sat down next to Deku. We're friends, right? I'd like to think so. I can trust you. Of course. Deku said. I hope so, he thought. My old man, he isn't much of a good person, let alone a good father. My life, it was always about becoming a hero. My duty, my purpose is, to surpass all might. To be a greater hero than he ever was. Deku nodded, looking at his friend with a bemused expression. My mother, well. Have you ever heard of Quirk marriages? Yeah, they were that. My dad wanted to create the perfect specimen to become a hero. Oh my God. That's awful. Todoroki chuckled softly. Yeah. I know. Well, eventually, it drove her crazy. She took a kettle and she poured the water on the left side of my face. My old man, he put her in a hospital. But it was him. It was all him, all of it was his fault. Deku was speechless. A sense of revulsion twisted in his gut at the thought of the flame hero. Oh my God. But why would he do that to you? You were just a kid, can I hug you? Is that okay? Todoroki hesitated, but he nodded. That's okay. Deku pulled the other boy into a hug. I'm so sorry. It's okay. I'm going to be the best without using his power. I'm sure you will. But. Well, it's not exactly his power, you were born with it, right? Yes, Todoroki said, unsure of where this was going. Then it's yours. But it comes from him. Well, technically, but, you see, that's the nice thing about genetics. Instead of being half, what's your mom's name? Rei. Right. Instead of being half Rei and half Endeavor, you're Holy Shoto Todoroki. That includes your quirk. Your quirk isn't called Ray and Endeavor's fire and ice combo, it's called its entirely own thing. It's an entirely new quirk that belongs to you and you alone. Todoroki blinked his mismatched eyes at Deku. A soft smile spread across his face, and he looked down. You're a strange person, Midoriya. I like that about you. Deku laughed. I just think, well, I think that you're very blessed, and you shouldn't let but take that away from you, you know. Todoroki nodded. I'll have to think about that. Shoto, cried a familiar deep voice, Endeavor. Both boys made faces at each other before getting up. DMN, said one of Endeavor's sidekicks. He really did capture Stain. Shoto, not now. Me and Midoriya are going to get coffee. Todoroki walked out of the alley, and Deku followed with a shrug, the two of them leaving Endeavor speechless behind them. Did you just, yeah. You're badass, Todoroki-kun. Todoroki laughed slightly. I didn't think you were the cursing type, Midoriya. Believe it or not, I've actually been told that before. Mission complete. Chapter 9, Chapter 8, What the hell is this? Deku startled as Shigaraki shoved his phone into his hands. Why are you giving me your phone? Look at it. Deku nodded, confused, and looked down at the screen. His stomach dropped at the headline of the article, After Hero Killer Stain's Arrest, His Popularity Rises. There's no way, he scrolled through the rest of the article, a scowl taking over his expression. People like him now. Yes. This isn't how it was supposed to work out. Shigaraki-san, please calm down. Maybe this isn't such a bad thing. How? If he's getting more popular, that means more people are turning against the heroes, right? Well, that's kinda what we want. If we play our cards right, we could find Stain's followers, take them under our wing, and convert them to our side instead of his. But I don't want Stain's followers in my league. Shigaraki-san. Deku said, exasperated. Look at us. We're literally two adults and a kid trying to take over Japan with two quirks, a handful of weapons, and a bunch of nomas. This isn't going to work. We need more people, we need more followers, more power. We can't do this with just you, me, Kurogiri, and the nomas, Shigaraki-san. Please, let me use this to our advantage. With the help of Stain's newfound popularity, we might be able to get the upper hand against the heroes this time. Shigaraki went silent, saying nothing for what felt like a few minutes. You've never spoken to me like that before. Oh, sorry, Shigaraki-san. I didn't mean to raise my voice. No, you're right. Go ahead and contact Jiren. Shigaraki began to leave the room, but paused in the doorway. We're going to need to steal Stain's following from right under him. Deku smiled at the other villain. Can't be that hard. We're much cooler. Shigaraki laughed slightly as he left the room. So, these are the people you found. Shigaraki said, eyes narrowed behind the fingers of the hand on his face. Yep, Jiren replied, smoke swirling up from his cigarette. What, you don't like them? No, I don't. Look at them, a brat and a guy with no manners. Exactly the kind of trash I hate. Shigaraki-san, Deku groaned, oblivious to the way the blonde girl's eyes sparkled in his direction. Give them a chance, Shigaraki, Kurogiri said. Jiren's a well-respected broker. Yeah. Deku smiled at him, and Shigaraki scoffed. They ought to be good, or he wouldn't have brought them. Well, like them or not, you still gotta pay. In cash. Jiren shrugged, a carefree expression on his face. I guess I could introduce them really quick. He walked over and gestured to the girl. This one. Well, she looks like your average high school girl, I bet, but she's actually the suspect of a string of murders. All the victims were bled dry. Adorable, right? Deku frowned slightly, an eyebrow raised. Why haven't we heard of her before? Her name and face were kept out of the media. They can't prove it was her. Toga. Himiko Toga. She beamed at them, her sharp canines showing. Life is too hard. I just want to help make everything easier in this dumb world. I want to be Mr. Staney. She grinned, bouncing slightly and doing a cute little jig with her arms. I want to kill Mr. Staney. Please let me join your League of Villains. She's crazy. Shigaraki complained. I don't know, Deku said. She seems kinda nice. You think I'm nice, she said with a squeak, suddenly very close to Deku's face. He flinched. And fast, you're cute, can I have some of your BLD? Please. Yeah, no. Sorry. Shigaraki waved her off. You're flustering him. Sorry. She grinned at Deku, backing up again. Anyway, Jiren looked amused. This guy, well, he hasn't done anything flashy, but he's taken Stain's ideology to heart, at least. I don't like this, said the scarred young man. Are you actually dedicated to the hero killer's mission? I can't imagine that you are, if you're gonna let this little psycho join you. She may be psycho, but at least she knows how to introduce herself, Shigaraki rasped. What's your name? These days I'm going by Dabi. Deku winced as Shigaraki took a deep breath. I want to know your real name. The stone-faced boy just shrugged. I'll tell you when you need to know. Oh, I don't like him, Shigaraki hissed. Deku gave him a comforting pat on the shoulder. Anyway, my new purpose is to pick up where the hero killer left off. That's not what I asked, Patchwork, Shigaraki snapped. Why does everyone care so much about Stain? He was nothing but a pain in the butt. He's all anyone ever talks about. It's really pissing me off. Shigaraki-san, no. Shigaraki hissed, hesitating partially up from his seat. What do you mean, no? Do not try to kill them, Shigaraki-san. I'll do what I want. In a flash, Deku was up from his seat, blocking Shigaraki's path to the new recruits. No, you won't. I know you like to have your way, and I know you're probably really annoyed right now, but you know we can't kill them. We need them too much for that. Besides, I like them. They're cool. The villain scoffed, but sat back down in his seat. Fine. We'll take them, Jiren. The broker grinned. Excellent. Deku smiled at the two new villains. Welcome to the League, my friends. I'm sure you'll love it here. So. I see you finally decided to accept my offer. Deku dared a glance up at All for One. Yes. I have. I'm sorry for the wait. It's not a problem, I knew you'd come to in the end. I'm curious though, what made you decide to change your mind? We're going to need all the help we can get, and all of us being armed to the maximum is gonna help us do that. I don't really want a quirk, but I see its purpose, and I understand we'll have an easier win if I have an extra trick up my sleeve. I'm not asking for one that I need to rely on very much, though. I prefer using my weapons. He patted his holster fondly before bowing his head. But whatever you think is best. You're a smart boy, Deku, what sort of quirk would you be interested in? I might consider giving it to you. Deku quieted, turning the idea over in his head. He hadn't thought about having a quirk in over a year, he'd had so many hopes as a kid, but none of them applied now. I would like something I can use to add insult to injury. Something that makes them flinch, something that makes their shoulders heavy with the weight of their mistakes. If that's not too much to ask, of course. I'd be satisfied with anything that helps our mission. All for One smiled. Very well. I have the perfect quirk for you, my boy. The villain reached out and put his hand over Deku's face. It took all of his willpower not to flinch at the touch. Deku didn't realize he was holding his breath until he let out a little sigh after All for One pulled away. Did you feel anything? He shook his head. No. Was I supposed to? No. Would you like me to tell you how it works? Deku nodded. Yes, sensei. It's called haunting. It enables you to produce ghost-like illusions of a person's biggest regret, or worst fear, when you touch them, if you have the intention of doing so. Not much of an offensive quirk, but you're strong enough that I'm sure you'll make do with this one. Deku just grinned for a few solid seconds. It's perfect. Chapter 10, Chapter 9. When Deku stepped through Kurojire's portal, he was decidedly not expecting to find 3 new people there. New recruits, he asked the warp villain, examining them. Yes. These are Spinner, Mr. Compress, and Twice, at least, that's what they're going by now. I see. Well, it's nice to meet you guys. I'm Deku. Oh, the one the blonde girl was yapping about, asked Spinner. Deku grimaced slightly. What had she said? He shrugged. I wouldn't know. Anyway, I'm kinda tired. Come get me when it's dinner time, okay, Kurojire-san. Of course. Enjoy your quiet time, Deku. Thank you, Kurojire-san. I will. He smiled and waved goodbye to the villains before making his way down the hall. Once inside his room, he flopped down on his bed and groaned. Why is it so hard to act normal all the time? He thought grumpily, still face down on his pillow. I love being with Todoroki-kun, he's a good friend, but I wish I could act like myself around him, like I am with the League. Like I was with Kaken. The image of the blonde boy, on the ground and bleeding, his hand reaching forward as he called out, Deku, wait, what was this feeling? Why did his chest ache at the memory of those words? God, he was so stupid, Kaken didn't care about him, he never had. He just didn't want to be partially responsible for the rise of a dangerous villain. Right. Deku groaned again, turning over to lay on his back and stare at the ceiling. What would have happened if I had waited? What would he have said? I have an idea, Deku declared at dinner. Most of the newcomers had chosen to take the food to their rooms, so it was just him, Toga, Shigaraki, and Kurojire. What's your idea, Deku-kun? Toga asked, smiling like always. Part of him wondered if she might like him like that, but the idea was so foreign to him he just pushed it out of his mind. I think we need to shake you, and the heroes a little more. We're not strong enough at the moment to do a particularly large-scale attack, something flashy and final, but we do have enough power to plan some sort of ambush or other small strike. Something just big enough to scare them, make them realize we're not to be messed with or anything. That could be a smart move, mused Kurojire. Do you have anything in particular planned? I definitely have an idea. I've been keeping in contact with our little trader, and Aoi-kun has informed me that the 2 first-year hero course classes are going to be taking a little summer trip. When he figures out where it's going to be, we can launch an attack there with a small squad of our best members. I'm working on the assumption we'll have more recruits at this point. Maybe try to take someone out. The teacher could make a good target, that's literally a whole plan, said Shigaraki. That's not even an idea, it's just a whole plan. Well, no it's not. I haven't figured out who to send. Besides, I wasn't done. I also thought that this would make for the perfect opportunity to make an attempt at recruiting Todoroki-kun. We're good friends now, I think I could convince him. We'll need Mr. Compress power for this one. Sure enough, Deku had been absolutely correct. As the first-year summer training camp approached, the League of Villains increased greatly in size thanks to Jiren and Shigaraki's recruiting efforts. Deku was proudly able to say that he helped a little as well. Deku finally decided on a team of the best villains for the attack on the Quirk training camp, Dabi, Toga, Twice, Mr. Compress, Spinner, Magna, Muscular, Mustard, Moonfish, Anomu, and himself. At last, the day for the attack had arrived. Okay, so we're going to hide out near their camp for some time, maybe a day, before we actually attack. We have to wait for the right moment to strike, or else things won't go as planned. Aoyama-kun will keep me updated, and I'll make sure you guys get all the same information. The day passed slowly, each minute dripping away like water out of a leaky faucet. The villains were impatient, sure, but they had spent many months, for some, it had been years, waiting for an opportunity such as this, and they weren't going to throw it away for something as measly as restlessness. It didn't make the waiting pass any easier, Deku noticed, forced to sit there and watch as Toga and Dabi argued over, well, he wasn't quite sure what. It sounded like it might be a song lyric. His phone buzzed in his pocket, and he fumbled for it so enthusiastically he nearly dropped it. Yuga had texted, "We're doing some sort of test of courage thing. It looks like it's in the woods. Could be a good time to attack. We'll be divided into teams." Everyone had fallen quiet, looking at Deku. "What is it?" asked Toga, bouncing excitedly, her face way too close to Deku's. "What did he say? Do I get to stab someone now?" He gently nudged her further away before responding. "Aoyama-kun says that they're doing an activity in the woods, divided into teams." And Spinner tried and failed to sound unexcited. "I think it's the perfect moment to strike." Toga squealed with joy. "Yes." Dabi scoffed. "Finally. I'll inform Kurogyri of our plans, and once he arrives, we can get started." Deku pulled up Kurogyri's contact in his messages and shot him a text, "We're ready when you are." It took only a minute for the warp villain to appear in their little makeshift hideout. "You're ready." "You bet we are, Kurogyri-san." Deku grinned. "This is gonna be fun." "What's the plan?" "I'm glad you asked." You see, the boy's eyes sparkled the entire time he explained the plan. It was the most genuine form of excitement he'd felt in a long time, he noticed. "And before we leave, Mr. Compress is gonna make sure he's caught Todoroki-kun in one of his little marbles. Then you'll warp us back to the hideout, Kurogyri-san." Kurogyri nodded. "It's a good plan. One of your best, I would say. Let's only hope that this Todoroki is going to be as convinced as you say he will." "Mustard is in position," Deku muttered. "See the smoke. It's time, everybody, attack." The villains split up, Toga to the entrance of the woods to finally spill some blood, Dabi to the back to set it all ablaze. Magna and Spinner both ran off to take out the pussycats. Muscular was supposed to go around the mountain and be another attack from the side, so he of course went that way. Deku and Mr. Compress both went to search for Todoroki. "I don't see him," Deku said with a frown. "Maybe he's, wait. Where's Muscular?" Mr. Compress turned and peeked through the trees. "How strange. Isn't he supposed to?" "Yes. You keep looking, I'll be right back." He broke into a run, leaving a very confused Mr. Compress behind. His legs pounded on the dirt as he ran through the trees, until he broke out of the forest. He aimed his grappling hook at the mountain, landing with a slight stumble seconds later. "Muscular, what the hell are you?" he broke off. Muscular stood there, Quirk activated, with a child cornered against a wall of stone. Deku took a deep breath and tried again. "Muscular, I'm going to have to ask you to leave the kid alone and do your job." "Ah, is the little boss mad?" "I'm gonna do whatever the hell I want, brat." Muscular raised his fist, Deku swore and lunged for the kid, some boy with a red hat. The two of them rolled just out of range as Muscular's fist slammed into the ground. "Stand down!" Deku shouted at the other villain. "Why are you attacking a child? Might as well finish off the family, right?" Deku went still. "What? He says I killed his parents. Don't really remember them, but if he says so, he can join them. You killed his parents." Her body, bruised and broken, a headstone reading, Izuku Midoriya, beloved mother, Deku raised his gun. His voice was cold. "I thought I told you to stand down. You're not the boss of me. Today, I am. Stand down. If you wanna die, suit yourself." Muscular raised his fist. Deku fired, a muscle tore, Muscular's fist hit the ground in front of him. It's your job to stand down, not mine. You'll throw the mission for a bit of fun. You're an idiot, Deku fired again, dodged again. What did you say? I said you're an idiot. What are you, half deaf as well as half blind? Back off, he cursed as he was thrown backward by the impact of another punch. He put his arms up in a last attempt at self-defense. He could still hear the kids crying, "Am I gonna die? Are you okay, Deku?" Deku opened his eyes. Mr. Compress. The masked villain laughed. Yep, that's me. He held up a marble. Was Muscular causing you trouble, or should I let him go? Keep him like that. We'll have to deal with him later. He sighed. Let's hope Spinner and Magna can hold their own over there. Deku turned to the kid. Are you okay? The little boy nodded, his eyes wide. Are you guys heroes? Deku laughed. Of course not. We're villains. Sorry about the muscles guy. If I'd known that he'd try to attack you, or that he'd attacked your parents, I never would have let him get recruited. He paused, looking at the child. What's your name? Why were you up here all alone? I come up here to be alone. I don't like being around all those heroes all of the time. He looked down, trembling. I'm Kota. Deku nodded. Oh, I see. Yeah, we don't like heroes very much either. Hey, kid, it's not gonna be very safe to be here. You see, we've all been hurt very much by heroes, and we decided it was about time that the heroes got a taste of their own medicine. So you're gonna have to stay up here, okay? Oh okay. The boy was so small, so scared, damn it. Hey, the way you said, heroes, it doesn't sound like you like them very much, do you? Kota shook his head, his eyes welling up with tears again. My parents were heroes, and it got them killed. Being a hero only ever hurts people. Ah, I'm sorry. My mom was killed too. The heroes didn't save her, they were too busy doing other things. So I decided to avenge her, you know. Avenge her. You're a little young, so I'll spare you the details, but the people who killed her aren't going to be killing anyone else ever again. But, aren't you a villain? Aren't you the kind of person who kills people? Sure, but at least I have reasons to. I kill to make the world a better place. A place where people's mothers and fathers don't have to die in the name of a greater good. A world where people like you and me can get revenge on people like him. Deku nodded towards the marble containing Muscular. You can avenge them, you know. No one would miss him. Avenge them. Yeah. All you have to do is come with us. You can help us make sure no one else loses their loved ones to the heroes and their stupid self-righteousness. What do you say? Doesn't that sound nice? Kota nodded slowly. There will be no more heroes. That's right. There won't be any more heroes when we're done, and they will never hurt you again. I swear it. Okay, Deku put his hand out. Will you join us? Kota hesitated. He glanced at the smoke and the gas rising. Above the woods behind him. He took Deku's hand. All right. Deku smiled. Now, you're gonna have to stay with me and Mr. Compress here, we'll keep you out of the danger zone. We just have to grab our new recruit and then we'll be getting out of here. If you're ever in any danger, Mr. Compress may have to use his quirk on you to keep you safe, place you in a marble ball, but I'm hoping it won't come to that. Kota nodded. Hey, don't be scared, kid. We've got your back. Looks like Moonfish already found him, Deku mumbled, pointing out Todoroki, Kaken, and some unconscious 1B student futilely blocking Moonfish's attacks with walls of ice. All you have to do is grab Todoroki and then we're good to go. I'll just have to get close first, Mr. Compress said. Wait, Deku put a hand out to keep Mr. Compress from moving forward. Let him tire them out for a bit. Moonfish's blade teeth crashed through and shattered ice walls, but Todoroki kept replacing them, constantly melting the frost off of his arm and face. Kaken was yelling, he wanted to help, to explode something, but Todoroki told him off. Moonfish. Deku yelled. Go help Magna and Spinner. We've got these three. Kaken and Todoroki both froze and turned to where his voice came from. Deku. Kaken said at the same time Todoroki said, Midoriya. Mr. Compress, now. The villain nodded, the both of them rushing forward. Deku whipped out his gun and fired a warning shot at Kaken while Mr. Compress tried to get close to Todoroki. Deku, what the hell, surprised to see me. And here I thought I'd made it clear. Deku pulled out his knife and swiftly slashed at Kaken's arm. I'm a villain now, Kaken. Icy hot, call for backup. Kaken shouted. I don't have my phone. Todoroki yelled back as he countered another attack from Mr. Compress. Kaken tossed something over to the boy. Use mine. Todoroki nodded, creating an ice wall so thick it would take a lot of work for Mr. Compress to chip his way through it. Damn it, Deku thought. He reached out with his bare hands. You'll regret that, Kaken. His fingers brushed against Kaken's shoulder, and in an instant, a pale blue illusion came to life before their eyes. An illusion of him. The BLD drained from Deku's as he and Kaken found themselves staring at a middle school Izuku Midoriya. Me. Deku whispered, turning to Kaken. You regret me. What? No. I regret the things Ochiko Uraraka burst through the trees, Toga on her heels. Toga-chan. Deku-kun, she exclaimed. Ochiko-chan here and I were just having some fun. She grabbed the girl's wrist and pulled her closer, her eyes glinting dangerously. Isn't she cute? The ghostly illusion faded, and Deku's mind came back into sharp focus. Toga, where, more hero students poured into the clearing. Deku swore and pulled out his phone. Kurogiri-san, please answer, he said to himself as he effortlessly dodged and countered Kaken's attacks. Deku, please, not now, Kaken, I'm a little busy, oh. Kurogiri-san. He ducked and fired. Mr. Compress, Toga-chan, and I are surrounded, we've almost acquired our target, so if you would, yes, thank you, Mr. Compress. Now. Todoroki and Kaken were back to back, now fighting together to fend off their attackers. Toga was still distracted by getting Uraraka's BLD. A portal opened beside the fighting girls. Toga-chan. Deku yelled. Go. See ya, Ochiko-chan, Toga said with a gleeful laugh, stepping backward through the portal. The girl hissed and spun around to face Deku. You leave my friends alone, she shouted, lunging for him. He stepped back and laughed. What are you gonna do? You're just a girl with no weapons and zero gravity. You can't hurt me, she pulled out a knife. By the time Deku had processed this information, the blade was already hilt deep in his abdomen. He gasped in pain, kicking her off of him, his boot collided with her head, and she slumped unconscious to the ground. Mr. Compress, he screamed. We've gotta go. 1 second, please. Deku staggered forward. Just grab him. Mr. Compress nodded, reaching out. A moment later, he held a marble in his hand, they fell back through the warp gate, and the portal closed. Deku pressed a hand to his wound, bending his arms awkwardly to hide it as he stumbled into the chaos. It was hard to think around the throbbing of his abdomen and the spinning of head, but it didn't take his usual genius to notice that there was someone throwing explosions around their hideout. Kaken, he said blearily. What is Kaken doing here? Are you okay? Kota asked. Well, he started before abruptly breaking off. He laughed slightly and collapsed, the world fading to black around him.